Howdy Space Rangers, Captain Phoenix here, and today we're back with another Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, Season 2, Episode 7 and 8 breakdown. I'm combining these two mostly because I missed last week. I know I'm bad, scheduling was hectic, and so we're just going to make it one super long video, kind of like how we did it for the premiere. We're going to be talking about both episode 7 and 8, the inaccuracies in both these episodes, and then just kind of close out the season here. So yeah, finale of the season and finale of this series as it is. So guys, if you're new here, of course, go watch the last couple of videos to get the context of what this series is about. But just a quick criteria breakdown of like what this video is going to be about. I'm only going to be pointing out the book inaccuracies in this video. Of course, I'll be pointing out some accuracies as well, just to keep things fair. I will also not mention book spoilers. I mean, I'll mention them. I'll like hint to some book spoilers, but I'll not be going into depth about any future events in the books that this show will obviously get to adapting at some point. And I'll only be talking about and referencing the Silmarillion because it is the only Lord of the Rings book I've read that's connected to this show. So yeah, I won't be dealing with like Lost Tales or the main trilogy. And now that the series is complete, guys, or at least now that the season is fully out, you are free to talk about what you want in the comments. Feel free to bash it, feel free to praise it, do all the crazy stuff you want to do that you've been holding yourselves back from since episode 1. I appreciate all your patience, guys, and now it has finally been paid off. I'll do a full review of the season at some point down the line. I do think that this season does deserve like its own review separate from me talking about the inaccuracies of the book, but I will still give my final thoughts at the end of the video. And also, because as always, let's not forget, huge shout out to Nerd of the Rings. This guy makes amazing Lord of the Rings videos. He does some interviews with the cast as well, so he makes deep diving. Thing he does not do are the inaccuracies. I mean, he points out some inaccuracies in his breakdown videos, but he doesn't do it to like the same extent I've made these videos do. So that's why I come in, I fill in that vacuum. But regardless, go subscribe to Nerd of the Rings. I get most, if not all of my information from him. I will obviously link his channel down below. Be sure to check him out. Thank you very much. Be sure to check him out. Without further ado, let's get into it. The finale. Of course, as always, because I'm making an inaccuracy video, I do feel the need to point out that just because the show made a change in the lore for its own story, that doesn't mean it's bad. Again, just because something is inaccurate doesn't mean it's bad. It just means the creators interpreted the text differently or had different plans for their vision. Celebrimbor never had to be tricked into making the rings. As mentioned in previous videos, he was more than happy to make them. I'd argue that it makes more sense for him to be forced/tortured into making them, and since that happens later, I don't have much to complain about except another inaccuracy which we'll go into.
Celebrimbor's mind is gone.
As said in the previous video, as much as I love Sauron manipulating things to work for him, this didn't happen in the books. Celebrimbor was fully aware of the siege and the elves of Eregion never turned on him.
Feet. Without your aid, thousands of lives are at hazard, Durin. Celebrimbor is among them. I know I asked too much of you, Durin, but I need your axe, old friend. I need it now.
In the Silmarillion, the siege of Eregion lasted 2 years, not a couple days or weeks, and the dwarves didn't join the fight till the tail end of the siege. Durin eventually calling back his armies is in line with canon, but again, Elrond would not have asked for his help this early.
Sacrifice. You are he. Are you not? I have many names.
In the books, none of the elves found out Anatar is Sauron until he went to Mount Doom and forged the One. Since the writers of this show are most likely saving the One till next season, I can understand why they would do the reveal here. Still, a pretty big departure from the books. So this comes from the chapter of the Rings of Power and the Third Age, after Sauron forges the One Ring and reveals himself to the world. But the elves were not so likely to be caught. As soon as Sauron set the One Ring upon his finger, they were aware of him, and they knew him, and perceived that he would be master of them, and of all that they wrought. Then in anger and fear they took off their rings. But he, finding that he was betrayed, and that the elves were not deceived, was filled with wrath, and he came against them with open war, demanding that all the rings should be delivered to him, since the elven smiths could not have attained to their making without his law and counsel. But the elves fled from him, and 3 of their rings they saved, and bore them away, and hid them. Pretty cool, huh? Again, this is one of those cases where it's like the show isn't bad for diverting from the books. It's just different, but like, I don't know. The book version is still pretty cool, though. Apparently, I don't know where it was. From one Lord of the Rings said, I think he said it was like in the main trilogy of books. The elves could hear Sauron's voice in their heads. That would be a pretty cool thing to see. But as I said, I really do like how he's manipulating Celebrimbor here and using his actual like illusion trickery to mess with him. So I said, it's not bad. It's not better than the book. It's just a different interpretation. Which, as I said, not every change made is bad. It's just the writers interpreting the text differently. And here, it's just a good, different interpretation of the text. I'm not mad. Galadriel was never held for ransom in the books, cause as said numerous times before, she was never at the siege of Eregion.
You have the beauty of your foremother, Melian of the Valar. If even a fragment of her wisdom is in your veins, you must know you cannot defeat me in battle.
Melian was a Maya, not a Valar, but they're both essentially of the same race. Maya are just weaker Valar, and not by much since Melian's power was able to keep Morgoth at bay for a while. Also, I find it funny that Ada tells Elrond that he should be as smart as Melian when Melian's apprentice is literally in the room with both of them. Yes, I'm referring to Galadriel. Now, in order to pull this up and get proof what I'm saying, I'm going to be reading of two accounts. So we're going to be reading from the chapter of the Return of the Noldor and of the Noldor in Beleriand. So of the Return of the Noldor, we see of Galadriel and Melian's relationship. Galadriel, his sister, this being Finrod, went not with him to Nargothrond, for in Doriath dwelt Celeborn, kinsman of Thingol, and there was great love between them. Therefore she remained in the hidden kingdom, and abode with Melian, and of her learned great lore and wisdom concerning Middle-earth. And then we jump to of the Noldor in Beleriand. Now, while the city of Gondolin was building in secret, Finrod Felangund wrote Now, while the city of Gondolin was building in secret, Finrod Felagund wrote in the deep places of Nargothrond, where Galadriel, his sister, dwelt, as had been told, in Thingol's realm in Doriath. And at times, Melian and Galadriel would speak together of Valinor and the bliss of old. But beyond the dark hour of the death of the trees, Galadriel would not go, but ever fell silent. And at a time, Melian said, There is some woe that lies upon you and your kin, that I can see in you, but all else is hidden from me. For by no vision or thought can I perceive anything that passed or passes in the West. And then they just kind of share stories with each other from there on. But yeah, here we see that Galadriel was Melian's apprentice and learned from her. You would think that since Melian was considered one of the whitest people in Middle-earth, some of that would rub off on Galadriel, which in the books it does. In the show,
Oh, that is disgusting.
This never happened in the books. Elrond and Galadriel, despite being close, were always professional with each other. You know why? Because she is his mother-in-law!
Oh my God!
Honestly, if this show really wants to be in line with canon from the books or movies, how could they allow something like this to happen? Galadriel is not only so much older than Elrond, but he goes on to have children with her daughter, who are weirdly enough missing from this show. Along with freaking Teleporter over here. Where have you been, bro? There was no build up to this. I would honestly prefer her kissing Sauron, because at least we had a whole season of those two together. What is this? Who thought this was a good idea?
Be not afraid. This too shall pass. I promise you, Middle-earth is healed, and its people see what you and I did here. All our sufferings will be worth it.
Celebrimbor never made or gave up more rings when Sauron tortured him, which the show kind of half does here. He does finish the 9, but doesn't tell Sauron where they are when he's captured again. I'm doing a bit extra here since I'll mention it again at the end of the episode, but in the books, after much torturing, Celebrimbor does give up the location of the 16 rings, all except for the 3 elven ones, which is interesting because the end of the episode kind of inverts this.
Treating you like you've treated countless others. like Morgoth treated me. Do you know what it is to be tortured at the hands of a god? I cannot imagine.
While Sauron did fear Morgoth, the Silmarillion doesn't really mention much of him suffering at Morgoth's hand. There was the threat of it once, but overall, Sauron was living pretty good in the First Age, all things considered.
I see the end, Celebrimbor. So clearly. I have seen it from the moment I awoke. But his end, it was different from mine. For what he wished to destroy, I wished to perfect.
This summary of Morgoth and Sauron's characters is very accurate to the books. No notes.
I've got to ask, idiotas.
This is what I was referring to earlier. None of the 3 elven rings were near Eregion, let alone on their way to Sauron during the siege. And on top of that, the 9 and the 7 were the ones Sauron got away with. This is a big change, and I'm interested to see where they go with this. And now it's time for some general thoughts. So far, this is the best episode of the season, hands down. That's mostly due to the action, so you don't have to listen to any crazy dialogue or lore changes. And aside from the kiss, I have no notes, and I'm fully invested with where they're gonna take the story. I really do like the cliffhanger at the end of the episode. And this is coming from a guy who knows how things are gonna generally play out. And before I continue, I'm sorry, but I really need to vent about the kiss a little bit more. I saw somewhere that a fan proposed that Galadriel, Galadriel's daughter in the books, would be a better fit for a main character. There's not much text about her, so she would be perfect for a brash, immature warrior elf, and it will make this scene so much more emotional than just cringe. Galadriel being the main character instead of Galadriel would have made so much more sense, but because she's not a well-known character from the established IP, there's no reason to bring her in, I guess. Back to the episode at hand, we've come back to focusing on the true meat of the show. The elves, Sauron, and a bit of the dwarves. Without all that rune stuff holding us back, this episode feels like a breath of fresh air. Also, I just want to give props to the acting in this episode. Charlie Vickers and Celebrimbor, I forgot Celebrimbor's actor's name. Oh, Charlie Edwards, that's it. Charlie Vickers and Charles Edwards, I hope I got their names right, absolutely eat up every scene they're in, and this episode captures their dynamic perfectly. Next episode we'll see the conclusion of their arc, and if it is anything like the books, I am so excited for Banner Boy! Banner Boy! Banner Boy! Overall, a really strong episode, and I'm invested as to where they'll go next. Onward to the finale.
The road goes ever on and on.
I'm not going to linger on this much since there's not too much written on the dwarves in the Second Age in the Silmarillion, but apparently in the books, the Balrog didn't rise till much later in the Third Age, and it was during the Sixth it killed, not the Third.
You know me, know you. We are as kin. 5 of us there were. But you were the one who convinced me to leave the uttermost west for this world, because you knew none of us could ever hope to defeat Sauron alone.
But I was told you wished to ally yourself with Sauron.
Most of what the Dark Wizard says here is true. There were 5 Istari sent to Middle-earth by Manwë, and the party was led by Gandalf and Saruman. However, the inaccuracies here are that Gandalf never convinced anyone. He himself had to be convinced to go to Middle-earth since he feared Sauron. The wizards also did not arrive in Middle-earth via an asteroid, nor did they lose their memories. They arrived by boat at the Grey Havens, and Círdan gave his ring to Gandalf. That's how he came to owning a Ring of Power himself. There's also the whole timeline and location thing, but I'll get on that later. Alright, I'm recording this on a different day, mostly because, I didn't plan for these 2 videos to be one. So that's why it's dark around here. We lost power at my apartment and life sucks, but we're continuing. So this comes from the chapter of the Rings of Power and the Third Age. Here we go. Long they journeyed, far and wide, among elves and men, and held converse also with beasts and with birds. And the peoples of Middle-earth gave to them many names, for their true names they did not reveal. Chief among them were those whom the elves called Mithrandir and Curunia, but men in the north named Gandalf and Saruman. Of these, Quirinius was the eldest and came first, and after him came Mithrandir and Radagast, and others of these starry who went into the east of Middle Earth and do not come into these tales. Pretty cool, huh? So yeah, it's clear that again Saruman and Gandalf came first, and then the Blue Wizards came last and went into the east. Although apparently in some other books, like other versions of the story, the Blue Wizards came first in the second age, and then the other three came later on in the third age. So so far we're pretty fine here. Either way, Gandalf isn't supposed to be here in the second age, so that's my main issue. This does, however, make me wonder who this dark wizard is. It can be Radagast or Saruman, as Gandalf is good friends with them later down the line, so it's possible that he's a blue wizard, one of the other two who came along, but knowing this show, it's probably Saruman.
Sauron. All so-called faithful are now declared traitors of Westerness.
While the faithful were oppressed in the books, this didn't happen till Sauron got on the island. So there's a lot written about the faithful and the Kingsmen in the Akalabeth, but this is my favorite, one of my favorite like examples to pick from, just showing the drama they have. And this is after like Sauron has come to the island and has like given formed for himself a place of power. Thereafter, the fire and smoke went up without ceasing, for the power of Sauron daily increased. And in that temple, with spilling of blood and torment and great wickedness, men made sacrifice to Melkor, that he should release them from death. And most often from among the faithful they chose their victims, yet never openly on the charge that they would not worship. Melkor, the giver of freedom, rather was cause sought against them, that they hated the king and were his rebels, or that they plotted against their kin, devising lies and poisons. These charges were for the most part false, yet those were bitter days, and hate brings forth hate. Ah! So good! So good. You love to see it. I really hope you get to see more of this in the show going forward. Um, as far as like the Kingsmen and the faithful drama is now, a lot of it is happening way too quickly. Like again, some of this stuff shouldn't even be happening until Sauron gets onto the island. So I hope that we get Sauron on Numenor soon. I don't know if it will be season 3, but I can see this being like a big thing if they do the War of Elves and Sauron in season 3, and then Fall of Numenor in season 4, because there is some juicy stuff that's like in the world.
We must leave for the west. There are faithful there. My son Anarion amongst them. I know a ferryman who can get us outside the city.
Anarion never lived on the western side of the island. He and Isildur were always near their father.
I'm the one who Lord Father wants. Set them free, and I will go willingly.
Give me one reason, elf.
I will give you 9.
Again, Galadriel never had the 9, nor could she use them as a bargaining tool. Sauron got them after torturing Celebrimbor to death. This shot of Celebrimbor full of arrows is very accurate to his death in the books. His actual death in the show, though, does leave a bit to be desired.
But the rings are beyond your reach, as I shall be ere long. For soon I shall go to the shores of the morning, borne hence by a wind that you can never follow.
This is true to the books. Human, Elven, and Maya/Vala souls go to the west when the body dies. They go to reside in the Hall of Mandos, the Middle-earth god of death, until the end times. Vala and Maya can of course rebuild their bodies whenever, but the reason Sauron doesn't go to the west when he loses his body is because his spirit has been corrupted. He would never be allowed there.
I am the master. No. You are the prisoner. Sauron, Lord of the Rings.
Celebrimbor's death was much darker and more graphic in the books. After Sauron killed him, he tied his body to a pole and had orcs pierce the body with arrows, and he marched into battle with it, using the dead elf as his war banner. So this is just a little quick quote, not necessarily really in here, but it is from from the Siege of Eregion. But I'll just read it on the screen because I said it's not really in the book. In black anger, he turned back to battle, and bearing as a banner, Celebrimbor's body hung upon a pole, shot through with orc arrows. He turned upon the forces of Elrond. This is Sauron now killing Celebrimbor. Very gruesome and just sad in all the right ways. While I appreciate the nod the show gives here, and I understand that the changes are a different interpretation of the text, I would have much rather if we got the book version of this event. By the way, Sauron reading Celebrimbor's future before he dies is something that elves are known to do in the books, so I'm not too mad at it.
I would have placed the crown upon your head. I would never have rested until all Middle-earth had been brought to its knees to worship the light of its queen.
Just another quick reminder, Sauron and Galadriel were never a thing in the books. They barely interacted, and Sauron doesn't love anyone but himself. As said in the last video, the siege of Eregion lasted 2 years in the books, with the dwarves showing up at the end of those 2 years. I guess since this show has decided to squeeze the siege into a couple of weeks, the dwarves can still show up at the end of the season and battle. Half accurate.
These are not merely wounds of the body. A very immortal spirit is being drawn into the shadow realm.
As mentioned in a previous video, the unseen world is just another plane of existence attached to the seen world. Elves born in Valinor, which include Galadriel, already exist in both, so I don't know what this statement is referring to.
Them back together.
As said in previous videos as well, Isildur never went to Middle-earth prior to Numenor's fall, and even though we don't know much about his wife, I think it's safe to say she wasn't a low man from Middle-earth, and was most likely a Numenorian woman. Miriel was never arrested, nor held on trial in the books. Pharazôn married her to seize the throne. Slight theory/spoiler here, but I think that's where the show will go, so that Pharazôn may legitimize his rule over the rest of the island.
Gandalf. That's what they're going to call me, isn't it?
Okay, let's talk about this. Putting my personal feelings aside over this reveal, there is so much wrong with Gandalf being here. For one, Gandalf and most of the other wizards never came to Middle-earth till the Third Age. He is here way too early. Second, Gandalf and Tom Bombadil have never been to Rhûn. The reason I'm calling it out here is because Gandalf explicitly mentions it himself in the books. Mainline books, of course. He of course talks about this in mainline books, but it's still established lore. They're just blatantly breaking canon here. This whole Rhûn arc has pissed me off for many reasons, and Gandalf being the stranger was just the nail in the coffin that was a long time coming. There was so much untapped potential they could have worked with if they just made him a blue wizard, but oh well, member berries it is.
What is this place?
The sanctuary, protected by the elven rings.
This is true to the books. After the dwarves help the elves in the siege, Elrond leads a company north to the valley of Imladris, where he forms Rivendell, which Gil-galad makes him lord over. Though it's worth noting that Gil-galad was not at the siege, so Elrond did all of this pretty much on his own. So it's not really mentioned much, but it is here in the Silmarillion, how Elrond founded Rivendell. From that time, war never ceased between Sauron and the elves, and Eregion was laid waste, and Celebrimbor slain, and the doors of Moria were shut. In that time, the stronghold and refuge of Imladris, that men called Rivendell, was founded by Elrond half-elven, and long it endured. And then the rest just goes to talk about how Sauron distributed the rings. But yeah, as I said, very little mentioned or like talked about on the Siege of Eregion in this book. So they most likely got it from like unfinished tales and lost tales from other books. But you know, just a little thing I thought of.
All Middle-earth is within his reach now, even Lindon. We must decide whether to attack and bring the fight to him, or to fall back to prepare our defenses.
Sword or the shield?
I'm not sure where the show will go with this, but in the books, the War of Elves and Sauron was pretty much a losing battle. Elrond set up defenses in Rivendell, while Gil-galad and Círdan set up defenses in Lindon. They very much went with the shield approach. Sauron was pretty much winning until the Numenorians showed up, which is a whole other thing. Anyway, so now we come to my general thoughts. Of course, I'm not going to be talking about the actual season itself. I'm thinking I could save that for a future review down the line. But if not, I'll still give my summary thoughts of the season overall. I'm just going to be talking about the episode first. So what do you think of the finale? I thought this episode was the definition of hit and miss. There was some great stuff in here and there was also some poor stuff. For the good, Charles Edwards and Charlie Vickers continue to carry this show like no other. I'm not 100% sold on Charlie being a Dark Lord, but I have way more faith and appreciation for him now than I did before. He can actually be pretty intimidating at times, and I really hope they craft this from Sauron as we get to see him pull, as we get to see him go full mask off in the future, because right now he's kind of been the deceiver. I want to see the actual Dark Lord side of him, and as we head to that point in time, I really hope Charlie is able to deliver that, as we get to the end of the Second Age. The Siege of Eregion, while a lot shorter than the books, hit all the hallmarks it needed to, and I am very interested as to what story arc they will handle next and how they will go about it. This finale felt a lot punchier than season 1's, and I'm glad they dove more into what makes Tolkien's world so interesting by actually relying on the books. As for the misses, I'm not a fan of the rune stuff. I was very interested in it when they brought up the concept in season 1, but after seeing how it was executed, this thing could not have ended sooner. As much as we all knew it was coming, I did not like the fact that the stranger is Gandalf. It straight up breaks canon. The Half-Foots are also uninteresting, and I am glad they are now out of the show. Please don't bring them back for season 3. The dwarf story, while not bad, does make me scratch my head. They already know the rings are evil, so how are they going to distribute them to the other dwarf lords? We know they have to, otherwise the rest of the story won't happen. And what about the Balrog? They know one lives under them. Are they just going to pretend it doesn't exist, or are they going to try and kill it? Which will fail and cause them to evacuate? I don't know. The dwarves have put themselves in a pretty sticky situation with, the writers have put themselves in a pretty sticky situation with how they want to handle the dwarves. As always, the music, acting, and visuals make this episode for me. Everything to do with everything but the actual writing, which I can criticize from here till Timbuktu. But everything else about this show still works to make it amazing. And I heard apparently the writing team has been largely revamped after the season 2 finale, so I'm interested to see if it will improve next season. Apparently the new writing team are very good with politics, and seeing as the next season is going to be very politics heavy, focusing on the dwarves, and Numenor, I am very interested to see how they're going to handle that and how they'll handle the battles as well, because we're very much now in the era of the War of Elves and Sauron, so I want to see how they'll also handle the fight, the action scenes as well, not just the politics stuff, even though, of course, as I said, the politics will be just as important. Anyways, now just kind of pulling back the reins a bit, I'll do a full season review soon, again, hopefully in the near future. I'm not sure as to when that will be, because as I said, I'm starting school up again, so not a lot of time for me to make videos. But as of now, just to give my quick overall thoughts of the season, I really like this season way better than season 1. It's clear that they've improved on a lot of the weak points that season 1 had, and they really wanted to strengthen those out. Yes, the season still makes a few weird decisions here and there, but there is an attempt to course correct, and I can appreciate the effort. These guys are actually a lot better than a lot of other shows and showrunners I've seen. They actually do have a sort of weird love for the books, and it's as if they try to do things their own way and they realize it's not working out, so they're kind of reining it back in, trying to find a marriage between being a full-on adaptation and doing their own thing, and I can respect the effort. So yeah, this season on its own, above average, competent. Of course, a few holes here and there, but overall, I'm satisfied. Anyway guys, that's gonna do it for today and for this series. I had a lot of fun doing this series. I loved watching the episodes, picking them apart, writing the script, of course watching Lord of the Rings breakdown of the episodes, and then kind of using his breakdown to enhance my inaccuracy videos. This whole thing was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed Rings of Power Season 2 just on that account alone, just for the amount of fun I had with this series. But now that all the 8 episodes are done, and now that I've done the full recap inaccuracy thing, I guess we're just gonna have to wait the next 2 years for season 3, I guess. And since I'm done with this inaccuracy series, I'm going back to making my regular videos that I usually make on the channel. It's honestly kind of sad I'm going back to regular videos, because these videos have been bringing me bank views. This is the most successful series I've held on this channel so far, and I really hope that I can continue to write that success with my regular videos. So yeah, as I said, I don't know when I'll have time to make those videos, because I really do want to make them, but of course school is gonna get into it's gonna ruin my schedule a lot, but I really do hope to get back to regular video making. My next 2 videos are gonna be on Ninjago. I want to talk about how season 2 of Dragon's Rising has improved in a lot of areas, and it's just a topic I'm really excited to talk about. So yeah, it's a great time to be on the channel. If you're new here, please be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, because yeah, it's just a great time to be here and to try and help me build this community I really want to build, just where we talk about fan and nerd stuff in general. But anyways guys, that's gonna do it for today. Be sure to hit that like button if you like, subscribe if you haven't already, hit the notification bell to be part of the team. Watch the other videos in this series if you have missed my other Inaccuracy videos. I've done everything from episode 1 to 8, and I said they're all in the library for you. So please sure to check them out, and yeah, let's talk some Lord of the Rings in the comments. Again, let your freak fly, and I want to hear your thoughts on the season. Of course, don't be hateful towards each other, be respectful, but also be passionate. Tell me what you loved and what you absolutely hated from this show, and I will be sure to read them all. Thank you so very much for watching, guys. I've been Captain Phoenix, and with that, I will see you in another universe. Goodbye, my Rangers.